Bondi and the Trump administration has put a $50 million bounty on Nicolas Maduro, calling for his arrest. So instead of calling for the arrest of convicted war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu, who carried out a genocide and bombed 5 countries in just 2 years, Donald Trump is calling for the arrest of Nicolas Maduro for having the audacity of not allowing the United States to overthrow his country. The Zionist-occupied West has made a complete joke out of international law. The Trump administration is accusing Nicolas Maduro of working with the cartels in order to destabilize the United States. I think Nicolas Maduro has other things to worry about other than turning Americans into drug addicts. Why do Americans refuse to accept responsibility for their own drug problem? So according to Americans, our drug problem is the fault of Venezuela, Mexico, China. Even Donald Trump tried to blame Canada for our fentanyl problem. Isn't it hilarious that the party of personal responsibility wants to blame every other country under the sun for America's drug problem? At the end of the day, America has a massive drug problem because we live in a toxic society that doesn't value life unless you are a worker robot that is making profit for the capitalist class. So Americans can blame other countries all they want, but there's no fixing American drug problem until we solve the problems of our toxic society. The Trump administration is now forcing universities to implement DEI for Jews. Donald Trump and MAGA made their entire political brand all about fighting and defeating DEI and liberal wokeism, only for them to turn around and implement DEI for the Jews. Not only is the Trump administration putting pressures on universities to censor anyone who is critical of the state of Israel, they want them to implement outreach programs so Jewish students can thrive. The Trump administration wants universities to start implementing surveys of Jewish students to make sure that they are comfortable reporting anti-Semitism and to make sure they have not been victim of any anti-Jewish bias. But it's not just that. The Trump administration wants to force universities to cater toward Jewish beliefs, where they have Jewish studies, the study of Zionism, and forming partnership with Israeli scholars. So essentially the Trump administration is advocating for DEI on steroids for Jewish people. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has threatened universities to not try to achieve race-based outcomes and other diversity targets. Meanwhile, they want them to implement those for Jewish people. Don't get it twisted. This is Donald Trump and Zionists implementing Jewish supremacy as official United States policy in order to create a class of protected citizens. This was always the goal of Zionists, to implement an era of Jewish supremacy over America. Jewish supremacy is a toxic ideology that must be defeated.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome back. The streak continues. Welcome to another edition of Nick at Primetime, Friday edition. There's a lot to discuss today. As you guys see, I'm always in the lab cooking. So usually on Friday, I'm like, man, let me show you guys some topics I've been covering, some hotspot videos I've been doing. We're going to get to Venezuela here later in the show. There are people who believe that Nicolas Maduro is a tyrant, essentially because he didn't allow the CIA to overthrow his country. Like, this is mainstream opinion in the most propagandized country in the world. Speaking of the most propagandized country in the world, where Jewish supremacy is being implemented as we speak, you can make an argument that the West has been ruled and always had Jewish supremacy laws, but ever since the Zionist class decided to engage in the final solution in Gaza, they don't even care about hiding it. So you had Donald Trump and MAGA, who made their entire political career raging against DEI and liberal identity politics. The same people who spent their time claiming that people on the left were snowflakes with purple hair who don't want to be triggered, that was nothing but a projection from the capitalist class. There's also what I truly believe, where the true left, the true communist working class left, is purposely drowned out by liberal capitalists who engage in identity politics. And it's a great strategy that they did to erase the left, like RBN, the anti-imperialist left, and make it all about liberal wokeism, the LGBTQ issues. They wanted that to define the left. If you're ultra leftist, you must support trans people in bathrooms. Like that was a very clever way for the capitalist class to defame the left and delegitimize the left among the working class. Which is why, as principled and theory reading communists and revolutionaries, we don't allow the capitalist class to ever distract us with those ridiculous culture wars. Because we know that it was all a projection. Everything they projected on the left has been true of the right. Everything that the capitalist class say about socialists or the left is true of the right. They are the ones who want to create a class of protected citizens. And I mentioned this before. It's probably the greatest heist ever pulled, probably. The greatest heist ever pulled was the neocons, the corporate establishment, managing to convince people that these privileged white people in tiny hats are some sort of privileged group. And to even call this DEI is misleading. This is DEI on steroids, way worse than what the liberal idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is outright Jewish supremacy, where they are forcing universities to cater to Jewish beliefs, to study, analyze Zionism without any critique, analyzing of said ideology. So the greatest heist ever pulled was the most wealthiest, the most protected minority class. It's somehow able to frame themselves as some victimized minority. The people who are able to get immediate congressional hearings, the people who are able to get bills passed on a drop of a dime, the people who are able to get Harvard presidents fired, the people who are able to mobilize a police state around their political demands, has somehow convinced people that they are the victims. It was brilliantly done. To show you guys how protected these people are, this is what the Trump administration is forcing on elite academia. And a lot of these elite academia institutions are ran by diehard Zionists. Columbia and Harvard and Brown, the political theater on corporate media was that there was some sort of struggle. Oh, they're being forced by the Trump administration. Oh my God, why is the Trump administration weaponizing government? They bend over to every single thing that Trump said because they are ran by Zionists. The new president of Harvard is a staunch, diehard Zionist who supported censoring Palestinian people. But to show you how Zionist is the height of anti-Semitism, they was going after him because they feel like he wasn't censoring enough. After they got rid of Claudine Gay, who also supported censoring pro-Palestinian protests. But they got rid of her because, once again, she wasn't protesting enough. So you have these institutions, and this is the political theater, and this is the framing of the conversation I don't support. The idea that there's some tension between Trump and these universities. Because we've seen universities crack down the Palestinian movement for years. Based on what I've seen, this is a coordinated effort by the Zionist academic elite in order to sell their plan to crack down on higher learning and education in the first place. So how do you do that? You get some dumbass like Donald Trump, you get a movement for youthful idiots, which was essentially a psyop of Palantir to focus on the culture war and use that political movement as a way to implement Jewish supremacy and crack down on freedom of speech. But I cannot emphasize enough, and big shout out to Glenn Greenwald for highlighting this, the pressure that Trump is putting on universities and what they are passing and what they're implementing in their schools is not remotely anything to do with fighting anti-Semitism and protecting Jewish students. It was straight up an instrument to implement fascism, crack down on free speech, and to spread Zionism. Look, this is what the Brown commitment to the Trump administration entailed. And I want you guys to understand, what does this have to do with fighting anti-Semitism, with keeping people safe? Look, Brown is committed to taking significant, proactive, effective steps to combat anti-Semitism and ensure a campus environment free from harassment and discrimination. These shall include actions to support a thriving Jewish community. So you guys realize that even liberal DEI was all about, hey man, let's just give Black and brown people a chance. This is what a lot of people on the right don't understand. They assume that they was picking people with lower test scores. That wasn't what it was. It was, and you can make the argument that they shouldn't do stuff based on race, but there was ideas like, let's get the highest scoring, let's get Black people who qualify for our school and have them join the school as a representative proportion of the Black community. That's not even what this is. You guys understand, this is way worse than even the worst interpretation of DEI. This is DEI on steroids because this is about creating a thriving Jewish community. I don't even like framing the issue of DEI around Black people. I actually fucked up. I shouldn't have done that because I don't like when people do that, because we know that DEI mostly benefited white women in the first place. So we have DEI, a program that mostly benefits white women, even though Black people take all the strays because we live rent-free in white America's brain. It's not even as bad as this because they are creating preferred outcomes for said community. This is what the right wing claimed the liberal class did, that shit libs did, that neoliberals did, that they favored different groups, that they favored Black Americans, that they favored Latinos, that they favored the LGBTQ community. Meanwhile, that's exactly what they're doing regarding the Jewish community. And for some reason, Americans are just accepting this. And then if you don't accept this, they're accused of being anti-Semitic. I'm telling you guys, man, I don't give a fuck how much heat I take. I really don't give a fuck. The left is playing a very dangerous game, legitimizing the anti-Semitism hoax. It's a dangerous fucking game because we are seeing what the ruling class, what the capitalist class who enforcing Jewish supremacy will use that political capital you are building for them. So they don't care about your fucking soul argument. They're like, oh, well, technically anti-Semitism is this, but technically it's Israel that the anti-Semites. They look at you and they're like, bro, 99% of synagogues support Israel. Who the fuck are you to say you know what the will of the Jewish people? You guys are anti-Semites because you don't support their ethnic cleansing, their apartheid, their genocide, because Jewish people feel uncomfortable on college campus. There is zero institutionalized anti-Semitism. Not only is there zero institutionalized anti-Semitism, it's the exact opposite. As you guys see here, they have programs that favor the Jewish community, that favors and create a protected class. So as they create a protected class, the same protected class that is getting paid reparations because pro-Palestinian protests hurt their feelings. Meanwhile, white Americans sleep. not outraged over that. They probably tweeted about some trans issue somewhere. God forbid if you're a black man, you talk about the debt that is owed, the generational wealth that was stolen from us. And then white people freak the fuck out whenever you talk about reparations for for descendants of slaves. So as they melted down at the concept of reparation for the people who built this fucking country, they are not only silent as a peep, but support politically. Serving the Jews, acknowledging that the Jews are the God-chosen people, to the point where we have to legislate and create them as a and just like Charlie Kirk said, it's our job to honor the Jews. The most cuck-like ideology, Christian Zionism, is not only pathetic, and not only is it a cuck-like ideology, it's directly leading to the implementation of Jewish supremacy. But anyway, let me continue this, because we only scratched the surface. Like, so Brown has to take steps to ensure a campus-free environment of harassment and discrimination. These shall include actions to support a thriving Jewish community. That's crazy. Research and education about Israel. What? Bro. So the Trump administration is forcing the education and study of Israel. Do you guys think they mean a critical study of Israel? Absolutely not. How is it not the implementation of Jewish fascism? How is this not the entire Zionist community straight up saying, all right, we are implementing the final solution, this whole illusion of us being some liberal democracy, time to turn that off. Let's see how much the people in the West are willing to accept and tolerate. And apparently there are a lot of people willing to tolerate this bullshit, because as they are creating a protected class of genocidal Jewish people, you still got dipshits. You got these cowardly dipshits whose minds are still brainwashed by Jewish supremacy, who still say stuff like this. Hey, Nick, don't you know that anti-Semitism is actually real? Don't you know there's actually people who hate Jewish people? Don't you know there are structural problems that... I don't give a fuck who cancels me, man. I don't tolerate, especially got the Trump administration saying they're going to prosecute Americans for anti-Semitism, and you guys are legitimizing this? Do you guys not have any strategy? Or you don't give a fuck? You just want to plunge our country to fascism just so you can get some pats on the head by some Jewish fascists who want to hear you say that there's an anti-Semitism problem. You want pats on the head for the most insane genocidal culture we ever seen. So as they patted you on the head, oh look, hey look, this is a good leftist. See, this is a leftist who acknowledges anti-Semitism. This is a bad leftist. RBN is an anti-Semite because he refused to accept the claim that there's a rise of anti-Semitism. So they're patting you on the head and telling you you're doing a good job as they're cracking down on your free speech rights. Congratulations. Now I'm talking about this entirety. There the Zohar Mamdani left. I accept there's anti-Semitism. It's real. I know people hate Jews. Yeah, there are people on the left that hate Jews. I know them personally. I don't. And I'm around the most radical, free Palestine from the river to the sea motherfuckers in the world. And I don't know a single person who ever went to me like, hey, Nick, I'm cool with Christians. I'm cool with Muslims. I'm cool with the Amish. But those Jews, fuck them. Never heard it in my entire goddamn life. You want to know where I heard that from? On South Park. A show written by Zionists in order to convince you that there are people like Eric Cartman walking around. Why do you guys think that show was allowed to exist? And now they got a new season where they're bitching about anti-Semitism. So people saw Eric Cartman, a fictional fucking character, complain about the Jews, and now people think that's a real fucking problem. That's how brainwashed Americans are. As they get bills passed for them, as they are 25% of the billionaires, have the most wealth, cracking down from, they got a fucking apartheid state they get the right of return to. Meanwhile, people see fucking fictional cartoon characters like Eric Cartman. They allow Hollywood and all these bullshit media apparatuses to brainwash them to believe that this anti-Semitism is a fucking real thing. as they are building power and implementing fascism. To me, I am disgusted whenever I see people legitimize this. No strategy, or they simply just don't give a fuck. They'd rather be accepted among Zionist-controlled West, the genocidal West and the genocidal society. They want to be a part of this. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm not a jazz man. So the jazz man will go around and talk about how there's anti-Semitism problem, because that's what they do. They want to be part of the fucking club. I don't care about being in the club at all. So I'm gonna this whole fucking thing about anti-Semitism has been one of the wildest psyops I have watched develop my entire life. And then for people on the left, the people who claim to oppose Zionism, for them to double down on this, it's crazy, bro. Anyway, let me read more about this insanity here. This is the DEI for Jews. And DEI for Jews is hilarious, but that's not even accurate, bro. This is way beyond the worst example of what a conservative can point to us regarding liberal DEI. There is nothing that comes close to this. They need to support a thriving Jewish community, research and education about Israel, a robust program in Judaic studies. I can't. Every time I reach a new bullet point, I have to stop like, bro, what? So every single college campus, in order to fight anti-Semitism, has to have a robust program in Judaic studies. Is that supposed to say thorough outreach? Is that a typo? Through outreach to the Jewish day school students? So I think they said thorough outreach to Jewish day school students to provide information about applying to Brown. So it's not only just DEI. It's like, hey man, you need to actively go out to recruit more Jewish students. Harvard is 25% Jewish. The fuck you talking about? Less than 3% of the population makes up 25% of Harvard. And Trump is like, oh my God, why you got discriminating against Jewish people? Actually, how many Jews are in Brown? Brown, Jewish. No, that's not the right one. I'm about to say Brown Jewish population. That is not the Google search I need. Brown University Jewish population. They was like, what are you searching right now? Brown Jewish population. University. Y'all can't type right now. 23%. Oh, Jesus Christ. Here's my AI search here. Look at this. Trump wants Brown to spend more time and more resources when Brown makes up 23%. Isn't it 3%? Like, what percentage? I think it's 3%. What percentage of Jews are in America? Bro, I know ADL. Bro, this stream is like get pulled like a motherfucker. Dude, I might single-handedly destroy free speech on YouTube. They're like, we can't have this no more. Look at this comparison, bro. This is the kind of shit that get you called an anti-Semite for noticing. Approximately 2.4% of the population is Jewish. Meanwhile, there are 23% of the Brown University. They're 25% of Harvard. Meanwhile, the Trump administration wants Brown to do more outreach to Jewish students. Brown has to provide resources for religiously observant Jewish community members. And I think this one is probably one of the craziest ones, the next one. They are forcing universities to renew partnerships with Israeli academics and national Jewish organizations. Jesus fucking Christ. Who they think is burning in hell, by the way. That's what the Torah said. For all the Christian Zionists, they believe your boy is burning in excrement in hell. But these are your homies. So they want to force universities to renew partnership with Israeli academics and national Jewish organizations. So they literally want to directly tie elite academia and universities to this country with Israeli education, which we showed Israeli education is all about them brainwashing their population into hating Arabs. Oh, Jesus Christ. They got to celebrate 130 years of Jewish life. And they advocate for more security. But you got to see where I'm coming from. This is batshit crazy. And why am I one of the few people covering this? I mean, independent media channels. And I'm sure that Glenn, he probably has a segment coming on this because I saw Glenn post this. So maybe Glenn might cover this. But why don't anyone talk about the purposeful implementation of zio-fascism, Jewish supremacy, that's coming directly from our government? Remember, you had the teacher union that was like, hey, yo, we can't endorse the Holocaust remembrance definition of anti-Semitism. We can't use the ADL as the official education sources. And then you had over 400 Jewish organizations that put massive pressure. I can only imagine what they told them. Can you imagine what they told the leadership of the teacher union, the threats they lobbied at them, and then immediately they overturned the will of their own workers to force them to accept this insane batshit anti-Semitism hoax? So it's a conversation I've had a lot of fun with. Is the United States Zionist occupied? Or is the United States and Israel just one entity? And we're completely fooled in believing that we are an independent country outside of the controlling grasp of the ruling class that worship and implement Jewish supremacy. To me, I think it's the chicken or the egg. Either way, the conclusion is the same. This country is fake, our politics is fake, until we get rid of the scourge that is known as Zionism and Jewish supremacy. And when you see the implementation of, I don't even like the term Jewish DEI because it doesn't even do a service, bro. When you see what they're forcing universities to do, they're forcing people to engage in Judaic studies. Like, is it even enough to just call it Zionist anymore? That's why I'm calling it just Jewish supremacy, because Zionism it's not doing it justice. You know what I mean? I agree with the Norman Finkelstein. Like, it's not doing it justice because this is more than Zionism, bro. Like, Zionism is you supporting the Israeli state. You support the existence of the Israeli state and willing to facilitate that. Like, people get upset at me when I say that Zoran Mamdani is a liberal Zionist. They're like, how dare you call Zoran Mamdani a liberal Zionist? And I'm like, do you motherfuckers know what Zionism is? It's literally just the support of Israel, the implementation of the support of Israel. So when you guys see what is going on in our society right now, do you guys really think Zionism is a term that properly describes this? It is absolutely not. We are beyond the point of it's just Zionism. We are living under Jewish fascism, Jewish supremacy. You can make an argument that I agree with that Christian Zionists are teaming up with Muslim Zionists, like Jelani in Syria. You had Egypt that just approved of an oil and gas deal with Israel. So you have the Muslim and Christian Zionists in Egypt, in Syria, in the United States. They are teaming up together to implement Jewish fascism, because that's what this is. And I understand if you don't want to go there, but I don't think Zionism goes far enough anymore to describe what the hell is going on. To understand how absolutely cooked we are as a society, this is the photo of House Democrats who was summoned to their AIPAC by their AIPAC handlers to attend this field trip. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, I think this might be a bigger version. Look, you had Republicans. They was doing their AIPAC baby field trip. Look, they're like children. They're on their AIPAC field trip to Israel. These are the people who run our government. These are Democrats. And this just happened right after Republicans did so. This is despite the fact that the majority of Democrats are opposed to arming the state of Israel. And they still make this pilgrimage. Oh, yeah, I'm going to share this. Before I move on, I actually do got to share this. This the more, like, this, what they're forcing these schools to do is insane. Brown had to conduct a survey in 2025 to evaluate the campus climate for Brown students, including the climate for students with shared Jewish ancestry, to evaluate social media harassment. So what Brown is going to do is they're going to have school-wide surveys. Well, the Trump administration is forcing universities to have school-wide surveys where Jewish students have to report whether they feel welcome at Brown. This is where it right here, where they feel welcome at Brown, whether they feel safe reporting anti-Semitism. Ew, brother, ew, what is this? That's the meme. Ew, brother, ew, what is this? They're forcing universities to do surveys where they ask Jewish students, hey man, do you feel comfortable about reporting anti-Semitism? The most protected and coddled and privileged group that ever existed. I think a lot is kind of repeating itself now. They're talking about anti-Semitism training. Wait, what is that in here? Whether they have experienced harassment. Okay, so pretty much they kind of repeating themselves. They're pretty much pressing on the fact that they want Jewish people to be as comfortable as possible, because back in the day, anti-Semitism used to be the hatred of Jewish or Semitic people, or it could be like all the people who promoted Holocaust denial. That was a commonly accepted definition of anti-Semitism. But now it's simply people who make Jewish people feel uncomfortable. Like, if you say something that Jewish people don't agree with politically, or if you do anything that make them uncomfortable at all, that's the new definition of anti-Semitism. That's why I said that my comments about tiny hats is rude, but it's still not anti-Semitism. It's not anti-Semitism to be mean to these assholes. It's anti-Semitism to question their belief. So I got a little ahead of myself regarding the AIPAC story, but I'll get back into it. But this is why. I wonder if there's any actual articles on this, because they've been trying to keep this under wrap. Do you guys think Democrats, when they want to know, they went on AIPAC sponsored field trips? Look, bro, I just search Google, but you still can't really find it. You can't really find this story. Here, I did find this one though. Look at this. This shows how crazy it is. You have the Democratic voters that are en masse rejecting Israel, but despite like 80% of Democratic voters say they're not supporting Israel, they still do it. And this is why you get those insane policies, like the crackdown on free speech, the implementation of Jewish fascism at these college universities. But what the most hilarious thing about Trump's implementation of Jewish DEI, I think I'm almost done with the segment. Still got a few more things to cover, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. Is that Trump, as I mentioned earlier, we all know, you guys wasn't born yesterday. He and MAGA made their entire existence off of fighting wokeism, fighting DEI. They arguably won an election running on DEI. So this is what they used to say before they got the order from their AIPAC handlers that they must implement Jewish supremacy. Brown shall not maintain programs that promote unlawful efforts to achieve race-based outcomes, quotas, diversity targets, or similar efforts. They flip just like this. So if you don't support any sort of diversity targets, achieving race-based outcomes, quotas for everyone else, but you support it for Jewish people so they can accede more than anyone else, because you made it clear, Christian Zionists, MAGA, Donald Trump, you made it clear that you don't support race-based outcomes, diversity targets for other groups, but you support it for Jewish people. So my friends, repeat after me. What is that called? We believe that Jewish people deserve special treatment and elevated above certain standards, above other people. This is Jewish supremacy being implemented by our government. So why are people afraid to call it that? Anyway, let's move on. Let's get to our next story because I'm going a little long on here. I ended there. I think that's a good way to end it. I want to quickly cover the big news story. I'll say this is what everyone is reacting to. This shouldn't be surprising to anyone, because Israel made their genocidal intentions known. Also because it was clear that Israel, because they're not a legitimate fighting force, and also because they didn't have a coherent plan, they couldn't defeat Hamas. They couldn't destroy Hamas. I've explained to you guys many times before that Hamas have put many IDF members in a body bag. The stated objective of the Biden administration, which is carried on by the Trump administration, which is strongly upheld by Israel, this is their stated objective, is to destroy Hamas. That has been an objective failure. So the reason why this is not surprising to me, and it shouldn't be surprising to anyone, you're gonna see all these Zionists, all the people who enabled Israel genocide freaking out about Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to occupy Gaza. But this was always going to be the end result, because how are you going to stop Hamas from governing Gaza? And then even if you get rid of Hamas, what is stopping the next Palestinian liberation group from arming themselves and freeing Palestine from the river to the sea? The occupation of Gaza was always a foregone conclusion. And it 100% would have happened under the Biden administration. Remember the Biden administration built that Gaza pier, where the United States military helped Israelis in the IDF invade Gaza and murder Palestinians. So this definitely, I believe this is what happened in the second term of Biden, obviously, as well. But it was clear that this was going to happen under Trump, because Trump gave Benjamin Netanyahu the green light to take over Gaza very early, where he said that we need to turn Gaza into a resort, into a spa, and how the United States need to take over it because the people of Gaza suffer so much. So for all the people who supported Israel up to this point, you can't turn around and be like, oh my God, I can't believe Israel taking this far. I condemn Israel now. No, you're guilty for leading to the situation where Israel is ready to pull out the final solution. So here's Benjamin Netanyahu. There's also a clip of him speaking on this, but dude, there was no fucking way. I'm going to read his tweet. He said, we are not going to occupy Gaza. We're going to free Gaza from Hamas. Gaza will be demilitarized and a peaceful civilian administration will be established. So there's so many things to say on this, but I'll start off with the basics. What no one will tell you about the reality of what Hamas has been asking for. Every single segment I've seen, and I'm not talking about just Fox, I'm talking about like liberal corporate media. You see it on CNN, MSNBC, you see them, they say it all the time. Where they said if you want to end this war, if you want to end the genocide of Palestinians, all Hamas has to do is disarm and lay down their weapons. Hamas has offered to lay down their arms and to disband, and if they was able to get a Palestinian state. So for a Palestinian state, Hamas has said multiple times they're willing to disarm and disband, because that's the entire goal of Hamas. The entire goal of Hamas is to achieve a Palestinian state by all means necessary. So if you get a Palestinian state, Hamas has no other reason to exist. So Hamas has said this many times before. So whenever you see people say all Hamas has to do is surrender and give up the hostages, that was what Hamas offered. Hamas offered Israel full 100% disarmament, and they offered a hostage swap. They offered to release all hostages if Israel not create a Palestinian state, but simply ending the war. They said if you end the war on Gaza, we will release all the hostages, and Israel declined. So this is all bullshit. You hear it not only from Netanyahu, you hear it from liberal Zionists. You hear it from Democrats all the time. All Hamas has to do is surrender. All Hamas have to do is give up the hostages. Not true. So Israelis lie the same way we breathe. And Netanyahu and Israeli politicians, they go around telling these lies, and they are never challenged by Western media because they are given the order. Anyway, let me continue. It's hard to even read a short 3-sentence tweet from this motherfucker, let alone watch a video. Jesus Christ. We're not going to occupy Gaza. We're going to free Gaza from Hamas. Gaza will be demilitarized. A peaceful civilian administration will be established. One that is not the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, or not any other terrorist organization. This will help free our hostages and ensure Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel in the future. So I'll explain why this is complete bullshit. So I'm actually kind of curious. Let's see. I haven't seen the response. Here's Nader. You've occupied Gaza for decades. No one believes anything you say. When you're not killing your own, you're using them to advance your agenda to ethnically cleanse Palestinians and steal their land. Don't insult our intelligence, child killer. This is a pretty good response by Nader. Based response from Nader. Big shout out to them. That's a good response. Here's Jackson. No one believes your Zionist lies anymore. So these pretty much the lies I debunked just now. No one believes your lies. Hamas says surrender yourself to the international court. Based as Hamas. So yeah, of course he's getting dismantled. I didn't see the responses though. I was just curious. Obviously he's getting dismantled. And now you're going to see the European response for this. Europeans, the continent that enabled the genocide, this is the tipping point for them. And guys, I despise Europe. I was never a fan of Europe in the beginning because I know their history. I didn't like Europe because of their history. But now, studying politics over the last 5 years, bro, I didn't even realize how cooked Europe was. Germany and the UK are full-blown Zio-fascist states, bro. You guys realize they have no free speech. I saw a clip of someone being arrested for chanting "Free the river to the sea." It's Europe is already cooked. And I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the ruling class, the culture. What they have done, what they support. Obviously not the people. Because my argument is that the same way they accuse communist societies of not being democracies and being authoritarian, we got to make the argument about the West. When you look at Europeans, when you look at Americans, they want to free Palestine. They want to hold the ruling class accountable. We live under a capitalist dictatorship where the people don't get what they want. There are millions of people who was marching in France for a free Palestine. There are people who march in UK and Germany all the time for a free Palestine. So, guys, I know I talk a lot of shit, but if we're going to be real, since I'm addressing the chat, my hatred is not towards the people, obviously. Because my argument is that we are living under fascism, that we live under dictatorship. So we live under fascism and dictatorship with the people not even getting the policies they want. I'm not mad. I can't be mad at the people. I'm mad at the propagandists, though. I'm not going to respect the culture that support genocide, that support imperialism. You know what I mean? So I won't hold back on that, but it should always be said for people who don't watch my show, it's not anger at the people, right? So I actually don't know this person. Who is this person? He's a Scottish politician, member of the Scottish Parliament. So I'm not going to go after this person because maybe he's been speaking up against Palestine. But this is actually no. Sorry. Let me read Keir's because I knew I was confused for a second. So let me read Keir's Starmer's post first, and then there's someone who's going to destroy Keir Starmer for his take. So sorry, I went out of order there. But here's Keir's. The Israeli government decision to further escalate its offensive in Gaza is wrong, and we urge it to reconsider immediately. Sir, you're the one who armed this fascist Israeli state who made it clear what their objective was. You had an entire society that said there's no such thing as an Israeli innocent Palestinian. You had members of the Likud party, member of Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet that said there's no innocent people in Gaza. You provided arms. You implemented fascism in your own country, sir. In order to stop the Palestinian protesters, not the pro-Palestinian protesters, I mean, that was calling out the genocidal actions of Israel. So you guys see how every single European politician, all in the UK, Germany, and France in particular, they're now putting out statements because they are feeling the pressure for their constituency. Every day, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens, and hostages taken by Hamas are being held in appalling and inhumane conditions. We need a ceasefire now. So they keep saying they want a ceasefire, but not only are you not doing anything politically to create this mechanism of a ceasefire, you're not halting arms shipments, you arm Israel to a teeth. Not only are you not doing anything about that, you're locking up your own people and ruining the lives of your own people because they call out the Israeli government. That's how much in the tank you are with the Israeli government. Here's Nader again, man. My algorithm must really like this guy. Nader with another base take. Only one side is committing genocide, stealing land, occupying, and deliberately starving a trapped population. Don't insult our intelligence with both sides. Did he say both? Oh, he probably said something. Oh, I didn't actually read a statement. Oh, Jesus Christ. I actually didn't read. Let's see. Let me skim it here real quick. He criticized the conflict. These hostages. Oh, Jesus Christ. His statement is trash. So he's doing the same thing I was just criticizing. He's like, well, you guys need to stop occupying Gaza, but we need Hamas to disarm. He immediately doing whataboutism and blaming Hamas for the situation. Oh, Jesus Christ. I only read the tweet earlier. The statement is actually worse. I was skimming it here. I started the second paragraph because the first paragraph is essentially his tweet. Every day, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza worsens, and the hostages taken by Hamas are being held in appalling and inhumane conditions. You see these leaders with their AIPAC handlers. They are always forced to say something about Hamas and hostages. It's required of them regarding any statement. Anyway, this is no need to read it. This is the same nonsense that is political theater. But I actually love the fact that they have to do this political theater now. Because before they didn't have to. Am I still in the thread? What the fuck? Oh, yeah, I'm still in the thread. I want to read some more responses. Yeah, here our friend Jason Smith. We need to have him back on, Zoya. Great China expert. Should have said that 22 months ago. Absolutely. This is another important point. Like, there's so many ways you can dismantle this argument, but this is another good one. The hostages taken by Hamas are cared for by Hamas. They're not droned, bombed, or sniped to death like the children in Gaza have been daily for 23 months. So this is the video? Oh, that's a video version where he said, I'm not watching that shit. He's essentially blaming Hamas for this. Anyway, I was just curious to see more reactions. They weren't dumping on them. Here's France. The French and the UK call for the fake Palestinian state, where Palestine won't have a standing military. You got to realize that this, and I mentioned this before on RBN, that this is the victory for the Palestinian movement. Because never before did leaders have to say this stuff. Leaders are only saying this now because they are facing massive pressure from their constituents because Israel is hated so much around the world and among Europe that it's political suicide not to at least pretend to criticize Israel, to at least not pretend you care about Palestinian people. So you will never in a million years catch me giving credit to any of these genocidal monsters who enabled the genocide in the first place. Every single time you see someone speaking out against Israel, just know that is a victory of the Palestinian movement. So for all the people who are tone policing the Palestinian movement, oh, you can't say from the river to the sea. You guys got bad strategy. You guys can't say this. You guys can't say globalize the intifada. You're gonna turn people off. Remember? You have Bernie Sanders that telling Zoran Mamdani, hey man, you gotta be careful how you talk about the Jews. You gotta be careful how you talk about Israel. Meanwhile, Zoran Mamdani is winning like 50% of the Jewish vote. They are losing. So there's no reason for us to ever give them credit, even if they condemn Israel, because they're doing that because the power of the people. The elitists will turn around like, oh, see, I praise Emmanuel Macron. I praise Keir Starmer for calling out Israel. You see people say all the time, credit to Keir Starmer. I got to give credit to Keir Starmer for making this weak-ass statement about Israel. You got to give credit to the blah, 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 blah. You got to give credit to Murray Taylor. No, you don't have to give credit to any of these people. They're responding from the pressure by us, my friends. Here's another example. A political theater designed to protect their ass. Germany suspends arms exports to Israel for use in Gaza over Gaza City takeover plan. So the position of Germany is that they are now supporting an arms embargo for Israel because they plan on taking over Gaza. The only problem is they were able to take over Gaza and implement the strategy in the first place because you guys already provided them with all the weapons they need to kill every single Palestinian. So people are like, oh, this is great news. Germany is implementing an arms embargo on Israel. They already gave them all the weapons they need. And if usually this will be good news for the resistance, right? If Israel was de-armed, but that's not the reality. If Hezbollah or Iran start launching attacks on Israel, if there was a massive uprising and resurgence of Hamas killing IDF members, do you guys think that Germany would maintain an arms embargo? 100% not. This is 100% performative. This is why I explain here. This is performative, and these politicians are doing this because of the massive success that the Palestinian movement had. Here's Ursula von der Leyen. The Israeli government decision to further extend its military operation in Gaza must be reconsidered. At the same time, there must be a release of all hostages who are being held in inhumane conditions. You guys see how all these genocidal Western leaders are forced to repeat this lie that I just explained to you guys that Hamas has offered to release all the hostages multiple times now for the end of the war. Now do you guys see why I root for Russia? The entire West is ran by genocidal monsters, and people wonder why I root for China and Russia over the West. Yes, I want Russia to bury you genocidal motherfuckers. I am looking forward to the new Chinese century. You know, the country who haven't invaded anyone in my entire life? What country is China bombing right now? I can't fucking wait for the Chinese century. Why would anyone want these motherfuckers to lose? let's see. You have Ireland. I'm gonna get to Maduro next. So yeah, I think we can begin to wrap up this segment. One more thing I'll share regarding Europe turning on Israel. I guess this is not really Europe turning on Israel because Ireland has always been based. Don't get me wrong, the ruling class sucks. They've been behind the population on Palestine, but Israel and Zionists, they have a smear for our Irish people because they support Palestinians so much. They call them Palestinians, just because how much they support the Palestinian movement because they've been victim of apartheid and imperialism. So now you have Donald Trump. Maybe I should include this. I should have included this in the DEI segment. But well, this is more examples of Donald Trump not fighting for the American people, but fighting to defend the state of Israel because Ireland has a state-sponsored boycott of the genocidal state of Israel, which is their obligation under the Genocide Convention. Just to show you guys how cowardly the world has been, especially Arab countries who are selling out Palestinians in such a historic way. I think humanity would never forgive Egypt for what it's doing. Forgive Saudi Arabia. Forgive these countries who enable the Israeli project. So none of the Arab countries are sponsoring boycotts of Israel, but Ireland is. There's no Arab countries that are signing on to the South African ICJ genocide case against Israel. There are countries in Africa. I think Morocco. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I should fact check that. I think Morocco is probably the only one. I don't know. I need to fact check the comment. But there's none of the major Arab countries are supporting. I'll say that. There's no major Arab country supporting the ICJ genocide charge. But you have African countries doing it. You have South Africa being attacked by tariffs. They're being retaliated against by the Trump administration. You have Ireland that has been retaliated against by the Trump administration. You have Brazil that being tariffed to death because Lula said that Israel is a country full of Nazis. Meanwhile, they have no problems with Saudi Arabia and the Muslim Zionists. They're now 100% pro-Al-Qaeda. They are supporting the Al-Qaeda leadership in Syria because they support Israeli normalization. So we have a government that not even remotely give a fuck about you. They want to attack any country who is disliked by Zionists. Because there's a lot of reasons why, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of reasons why the West hate Nicolas Maduro. Don't get it twisted. I think that's a good transition to the Maduro story. I want to do at least three stories. But the same with North Korea, where North Korea had been a strong advocate for the Palestinian people ever since their formation. Do you know North Korea at no point ever recognized the state of Israel? They never recognized Israel. I've seen unconfirmed reports. I say unconfirmed because I looked into it. I couldn't find anything. But I've seen many people say before that Zionism is illegal in North Korea. But we got to be careful because there's a lot of bullshit. I'm very careful about what I believe in North Korea. Even good shit. Like I heard that Zionism is punishable by life in prison. Even though that's basic fuck, I'm still kind of skeptical about that because everything we told about I haven't seen anything that confirmed that. But the point is, Zionism is non-existent in North Korea. Let me see if I can find a headline. I didn't have anything. Let me see. North Korea, Israel. Let's see if I can find one of the many headlines I read. They never acknowledged Israel. Actually, I'll just read this little quick AI overview. North Korea and Israel has a history of strained relations. now you guys see why You've been convinced to hate North Korea, not only because of the rabid anti-communism and the West being butthurt that they lost another war, but whenever you have been taught to hate a country, it almost always comes down to this, guys. North Korea and Israel has a history of strained relations and lack of official diplomatic ties. North Korea does not recognize Israel and instead support a Palestinian cause. So, guys, whenever you see this, actually, you want to see, here's another headline. Whenever you see the United States wants to convince you to hate another country, it always has to do with the relationship with Israel. Here's a recent headline. North Korea slams Israeli attacks on Iran, accuses U.S. of fanning the flames of war. So you guys realize every single time that Israel's in the news, every single time, North Korea is right there. I've seen it my entire time covering this issue. Whenever Israel does some fuck shit, like they murdered Shireen Abdul-Akleh, North Korea came out with a statement condemning the Biden administration for covering up the murder of journalists by Israel. They do it all the time. Why do you think the West hate Israel so much? Anyway, let me get to my original point, because the original point is about Nicolas Maduro. And I want to bring this up simply because everything goes back to Israel. You had Nicolas Maduro that called for Jewish people to take up arms against Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli state. He put out a statement. I have Semitic DNA. My origin with the Semitic people, and I call for all Jewish people to take up arms and to stop Benjamin Netanyahu at all costs. So Benjamin Netanyahu is calling. Nicolas Maduro is calling for Jewish people to take up arms against the genocidal state of Israel. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders refuses to call what Israel does a genocide. So choose your path, leftists. Do you support Nicolas Maduro, who advocates for the freedom of the Palestinian people and advocate for resistance? Or do you support Bernie Sanders, who don't even support boycotts of Israel? You guys know Bernie Sanders called Nicolas Maduro a tyrant. According to Bernie Sanders, Nicolas Maduro is a tyrant because he didn't allow the CIA to overthrow his country. That's the entirety of the U.S. left in a nutshell. The entirety of the U.S. left hates fucking Nicolas Maduro. I need to find the headline. The headline is old. I'm going to see if I can find it. But anyway, look, Venezuelan government fuels incendiary anti-Israel and anti-Semitic environment. If you look at the very bottom here, this is a report that the ADL made about Venezuela, about how Nicolas Maduro is an anti-Semitic tyrant. At the bottom, look, President Nicolas Maduro has called on the Venezuelan Jewish community to publicly support hostile line against Israel. So now, no, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of reasons. This is not the only reason, but I think it kind of fit with the theme. Hugo Chavez, he refused to give up Venezuelan oil to Western countries, and they never forgave him for it. And then they thought once they got rid of Chavez, they thought that they could have a sellout leader that will eventually cut a deal with the West. And they tried to get Maduro to sell them out early. Once they realized that Maduro wouldn't sell out the Venezuelan people, then all of a sudden he became a tyrant that must be taken down. So this leads to Donald Trump putting a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country.
So they were blaming Nicolas Maduro for America's drug problem. Americans ever take personal responsibility for their own actions? Well, it was China's fault for our drug problem. It was Mexico's fault for our drug problem. It's Colombia's fault for our drug problem. You guys notice how it's everyone's fucking fault except our own? Hell, you had MAGA and Trump. They was blaming Canada. They blamed Canada for the fentanyl crisis. At what point do you guys take personal responsibility for your own trash-ass society where people die from diseases of despair, where Americans are going through despair to the point where they are forced to take our drugs? Why don't you take responsibility for the fact that the CIA pumped drugs into our community? People complain, oh my God, I wish they would stop drug production in Colombia. I wish Mexico would stop the cartels. Why do you guys think the cartels exist in the first place? Why do you guys think Colombia is a haven for drug production? Colombia only exists, the Mexican cartels only exist because American demands for drugs. Not the other way around. People think that the Colombian drug production and Mexican cartels is the reason for American drug problem. No, American drug problems is why the Colombian cartel exists in the first place. So isn't it hilarious how the people in the party that advocates for personal responsibility, I'm a Republican, I advocate for personal responsibility. Meanwhile, they will refuse to take responsibility for their failed society that leads to diseases of despair. And I know this doesn't have to be said. I can show the receipt because I always show receipts because I don't expect you guys to take my word for it. So whenever possible, I do show you guys receipts. Claudia Sheinbaum and the Mexico government that emphatically rejected the claim of the Trump administration. God, people, they wonder why no one fucking read their fucking stupid journalism no more. They got pop-ups everywhere. That's why no one reads their stupid website. But let's say you're a dipshit American who never takes responsibility for your own actions. It's never America's fault. It's always someone else. I'm not gonna share this article. They asking me to sign up. Fuck that. Let's say you actually believe it. I'm gonna find another article. Let me see. Mexico, Nicolas Maduro. I'm sure I can find another story. Here it is. Here's one from Al Jazeera. This came out 12 minutes ago, so this is pretty new. No proof. Mexico's Sheinbaum weighs on the U.S. claims of Maduro. Oh, well, essentially she said they said they're not even going to investigate it because there's no evidence whatsoever of this even being a thing. But we don't even have to fucking go through this because it's an obvious lie. The same way they lie about Maduro regarding everything. Why would Nicolas Maduro, with all the challenges that he faced with his country, fighting sanctions? You have Argentina that's provoking them. You have paramilitary death squads invading Venezuela. So despite all this stuff that's going on in Venezuela, he spent his time getting Americans hooked on drugs. Why? Well, how does that benefit him in the end game? You only believe this if you believe the cartoonist lies so by the CIA that everyone who hates America are just uniquely evil and they just want to fuck with Americans for some reason. Maduro couldn't give a fuck about the American people. He wants the American people to leave him the fuck alone. The same with Hamas. They just want to be left alone. I just do. Oh yeah, there's another argument that's very important to make. And Claudia Sheinbaum, she has a great argument where she destroys Donald Trump. She had during the speech. I wish I could find it. I saw it a while ago. It's gonna be hard to find. Well, she explained that Donald Trump attacking Mexico for enabling the rise of fentanyl. She's like, dude, you guys need to grow the fuck up. If we're responsible for the rise of fentanyl and drug problems in America, why isn't there a drug problem in Mexico? They apparently got easy access to the supply, right? Where are the other countries along that route that have a massive drug problem? This is a uniquely American problem, And I'm not going to allow you guys to shift blame on other countries. They blame everyone under the sun. Apparently, they said it's China's fault for the fentanyl crisis because there are components that is used to make fentanyl that come from China. So you have these American drug dealers that are balling so much. These motherfuckers are on top of their goddamn game. These motherfuckers are importing supplies from China because their consumer base is so large. So you have Americans cooking up these supplies, and then the response from Americans is to blame China for that. But there's nothing China can do for the fact that Americans buy individual parts from China and then create drugs using that. Because if that's something that's a big problem, why isn't there a fentanyl problem in China, guys? Anyway, I'll just read a little bit more. I'll listen to a little bit more statement.
Organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country. To date, the DEA has seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro and his associates, with nearly 7 tons linked to Maduro himself, which represents a primary source of income for the deadly cartels based in Venezuela and Mexico.
Source, just trust me, bro. Just trust me, bro. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this up here, and I'm gonna make accusations against Nicolas Maduro because I want to distract from the fact that there's still no Epstein list. So you guys don't have an Epstein list, but they're gonna create a conspiracy theory about Nicolas Maduro. Imagine being this desperate. Anyway, I got one more segment I want to get to. Damn, I'm almost already 90 minutes in. All right, let's see how quick I can do this. I want to do at least one Ukraine segment, because you had this meeting that was floated between Donald Trump and Zelensky, and apparently there was an offer that is being reported by the West that Putin made an offer for peace for Eastern Ukraine. The details are very vague on what that means, but essentially the West has been melting down because Putin has no reason to concede to any demands. So he essentially is like, hey man, I'll meet with Trump. You guys give me Eastern Ukraine, get NATO out of Ukraine. Essentially the same shit I've been saying since the beginning. And now Trump is pretending that Putin is being unreasonable, even though Putin has no reason to negotiate with him. And this is MAGA's way to sell the war. And Trump is going all in as a Western neocon who want Russia to concede, to put maximum pressure on Russia, and to win this war. And that's not going to happen. So I'm going to start here because I saw this story here, which is tragic, depressing, but it's also like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? And this is why we want the Ukraine war to be over. So let's start here. Can you imagine how broken your brain has to be for you to abandon your wife and child to fight and die for NATO? So Western leaders want us to fight to the last Ukrainian. They want Western people in Western society to sacrifice it all to fight a war against Russia simply because they can't handle having a neutral Ukraine. You guys realize that is what this is all about. Putin wants Ukraine and the international community to respect the referendum that came out of the Donbass, where a majority of the people in the Donbass wanted to be part of Russia. And they wanted to escape the fascist scourge of the Ukrainian government that killed 12,000 ethnic Russians in the Donbass. So Putin actually made a concession where he was like, all right, if you guys want to have a Western Ukraine that's garbage, that's on your prerogative. But I want a neutral buffer zone, the Donbass, which is mine, where it will be Russia because they speak Russian. Then Western Ukraine has another buffer zone between the West and Russia. So Russia is a country that they are worried about invading Europe because they said we got to stop Putin now or he will continue into Europe. So why wouldn't you, if you're in the West, why wouldn't you want a buffer zone between you and this country you are telling everyone is crazy? So let me get this headline before I actually dive into this shit. Look, you have British dad killed by drone fighting in the UK. Oh my God, this source here is horrible. Oh, this is the Daily Mail. That's why I didn't even check the headline. I mean the website. Look, married British father is killed on his first mission after volunteering to fight in Ukraine despite no military experience. Jesus Christ. Why would anyone use this shit? I need to take this off. I don't want this fucking ad on my stream. Yeah, I'll keep this fucking headline up. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine being brainwashed by Western media so much that you want to abandon your family to fight and die for NATO? So this is why everyone should want peace in Ukraine. Imagine thinking that you're pro-Ukraine, but you want to sacrifice another generation of Ukrainians. It's very sad because whenever you see footage in Ukraine, you don't see military-aged men that much. I saw a footage of people dancing in Ukraine. They're like, in Ukraine, we're still dancing. We won't let Russia take our joy away. And in that video, if you look, there was not a single military-aged man. All the military-aged men are being snatched up the streets. And now you have support for the Ukraine war that completely collapsed in Ukraine. So you have an entire population like, hey, bro, even if it means giving up our territory, we just want this shit to be fucking over. Meanwhile, you have people in the West that say, nah, bro. We need y'all to fight you the single last Ukrainian. This is why Zelensky cracked down on opposition media, opposition parties, and this is why he canceled all elections. Because he doesn't want any public referendum on this war. This is a war that Ukrainians want done. Look, Ukrainian support for the war effort collapses. This is why they refuse to hold elections. This is why Putin is meeting with Donald Trump and he refuses to meet with Zelensky. So people say, oh, Putin is a tyrant who wants to delegitimize Zelensky's reign. Zelensky refuses to hold elections. So the position of Russia is very understandable. They had an election in Russia and Putin dominated because he's massively successful and popular in Russia. Where's your election, Zelensky? He knows he will get dominated. So why would Russia negotiate with a completely illegitimate leader? Which leads to this story. With Zelensky sidelined from Ukraine war talks. So Putin and Trump like, hey, little child, sit in the corner here. Trump appears to hand Putin a diplomatic win. So liberals right now are melting down at even the concept of Trump and Putin meeting. Putin has embarrassed and emasculated Donald Trump on the global stage. He understands that that Trump has pressure to end the war among his base of support. He said he's going to end the war in 24 hours. Meanwhile, Putin is sitting pretty, massively supported by the Russian people, military-industrial complex and high speed, running like a smooth machine, support from the Russian people still very high. So you're in a position where you can sit back and wait for Western support to crumble, and that's exactly what happened. That's why the Zelensky curse exists, where every single Western leader that supported Zelensky lost their election. That's why Kamala Harris lost. The Swedish prime minister stepped down, resigned. The UK went through how many prime ministers since then? So Putin is sitting pretty. So let's listen, and I'm going to end the stream on this last segment here. Listen to the delusion. And I have a hard time picking which video I wanted to show you guys. But I'll show you guys this one because it shows you the utter delusion. It shows how the liberal pro-war propagandists, they don't even have a way out. They don't even have an end goal for Ukraine. Anyway, let's start here.
Yeah, these things are generally planned a lot more in advance. Thank you for that, Monica. Well, Ambassador, look, Russia's a pariah, at least in the West. Putin.
You guys see why I wanted to show you this one? This guy, Michael McFall. I saw this like, I got to show you guys this, bro. Because there's no crazier neocon, no bigger anti-Russia, pro-war psychopath than Michael McFall. And you guys see the lead into this question, the pure delusion. And this is how the entire conversation is framed. The entire conversation is framed as Russia is a pariah, so the United States has no reason to negotiate with Russia because Russia has the hills backed up to the wall, and they need the West. The delusion. So for one, the intro that she has when she says Putin is a global pariah. By who? Europe?
It's possible.
You have the global majority that supports Russia and Putin over the West. You have India, a country I have a ton of criticism of, the Modi government. But India has been buying Russian oil in order to, and helping them avoid U.S. sanctions. So you have Russia that's selling oil to China to avoid sanctions, selling oil to India to avoid sanctions. Nigga, that's 3 billion people right there. Just those two countries, let alone BRICS, and all the countries who still have a friendly relationship with Russia. I mean, Zoya, what is it? 70%? 80% of the global majority is on the side of Russia versus the West. But you guys see how white supremacy and Western chauvinism is so strong, even among the liberal class, that they don't view the global South. They don't view Africans. They don't view the opinions of Indians as legitimate. They could give a fuck about what brown people think as long as Europe supports them. They will say the world turns against Russia. The world stands behind Israel. You mean Europe? Because they only value the opinions of white societies and white population. What other word can we use for that other than white supremacy? That's even demonstrated among the liberal class. But anyway, I know I can't shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. But do you guys really care about MSNBC at the end of the day? I'm using this video as just a way for me to rant at the end of the day. But hey, I'll play the video if you guys really want to hear it. Let's hear what Michael McFall has to say. And I have a lot to say regarding their sloppy, lazy propaganda.
Look, Russia's a pariah, at least in the West. Putin has an arrest warrant out for war crimes against him. So what does it mean for him to get to meet with an American president, considering he's shown no, at least publicly, no appetite for compromise?
You guys see the framing of this question? The fucking delusion. This is not Fox News. This is liberal people. These are Democrats, bro. The world revolves around the United States. Why are we giving clout to Putin? Nigga, he is winning. That's why. But all right, I'll shut up. Let's hear it from Michael McFall. I think this question is very revealing on a Democrat mindset, how they view the world, which I think is crazy.
It would be a fantastic victory for him, of course, to stand next to the president of the United States, the leader of the democratic world, and have to give nothing in return for that meeting. That is a giant plus for Putin. And therefore,
what does it say about your society that whenever peace happens, it benefits your enemies? The position of the United States is a ceasefire in Gaza would benefit Hamas. Now they're saying a ceasefire in Ukraine, peace in Ukraine, advocating for peace in Ukraine will benefit Putin? He said the United States get nothing out of it. What do you mean the United States get nothing out of conversations between Russia, peace conversation between Russia and Ukraine? We get everything out of it. For example, we don't have to give our military supplies to Ukraine no more. You have people that will no longer die in war. You gotta see how saving lives in the war is not even part of his calculation. He's like, peace talks? What the fuck we get out of it? I don't know, saving lives? You fucking psychotic asshole. But you guys see how I can't even make it a sentence or two before I dismantle their crazy arguments? But let me start. Let's see how far we can get to it. I know you guys don't give a fuck about their opinions anyway, so who cares? I want to show you guys just how psychotic they are and how easy it will be to dismantle all their arguments.
victory for him, of course, to stand next to the president of the United States, the leader of the democratic world, and have to give nothing in return for that meeting. That is a giant plus for Putin. And therefore, I think President Trump and his administration need to think about what are the minimal things that they want to get out of a summit meeting because of in return for this big gift. You know, usually I've actually planned presidential summits before when I worked at the White House for President Obama. The usual way that summits occur is at the end of big negotiations. It's to close big sets of negotiations, and you use the meeting as a mechanism to force events, to force sides to agree. What makes me nervous about this is that we're getting the president of the United States involved before any details have been revealed or negotiated. And most certainly, and thankfully Secretary Rubio noted that, it has to be a trilateral meeting. I think it would be a giant mistake for President Trump to meet with Putin and not have as part of that some kind of meeting with President Zelensky as well.
Yeah, and
why would he meet with Zelensky? Zelensky is not a legitimate president. He has not won an election. He did not. He is an unelected leader. Putin said he would not meet with Zelensky ever until he wins an election, which he won't be able to. And also, you got to see, I am nervous about peace talks. Who knows what kind of details they have? The United States has no cards, sir, to play here. But anyway, let's continue. I guess I'll play one more segment and we can.
I want to get to that, but to the point of who should get what out of this, right? And we don't know exactly if anything was agreed to in the meeting between Putin and Trump's special envoy yesterday. Rubio called it unproductive. But the Kremlin has been pretty clear, Ambassador, about what it wants. It wants a guarantee that Ukraine won't join NATO and recognition of the territory that Russia illegally annexed. But is that what it's going to take to stop this war?
That's exactly what Putin's demand was in the beginning. In fact, if Zelensky accepted the peace deal that was put on the table at the beginning of the conflict that Boris Johnson killed, Ukraine would have had more of their territory. Russia sees the area of Donbass that wants to be part of Russia and voted to be part of Russia via referendum. So via referendum, since the West wouldn't implement their sovereignty as a state, which they have the right to be a sovereign state after the Maidan coup and the rise of the Nazis in Ukraine, and after they were shelled by the Nazis and the fascists in Ukraine, they have every right to have a referendum and decide to be part of Russia, to be independent. And that's all that Russia wanted. Russia, even in the beginning, was willing to have Zelensky stay in leadership. In the very beginning, that was still part of his demands. It wasn't until Zelensky escalated this conflict and he called for Russia to give back Crimea. That was like one of the lines in the sand moment, because I still remember, I really wish I could find the clip. The Russian foreign minister, he essentially was like, that comment is a disqualifying. And you gotta know that Zelensky says this to this day. He says he won't accept any peace deal that doesn't include Crimea, which is part of Russia. Russian speaking, voted to be part of Russia. Russia has said in the meantime, this is a red line that said we will never ever negotiate this in a million years. So Zelensky, knowing that, says, hey man, I'm not negotiating unless Crimea is on the table. So not only are you an illegitimate leader, you are clearly not serious about peace. Here's a great comment from Zoya. But if you're an illegitimate leader and you're doing everything you can to take peace talks, why would Putin grace you with his presence when you're that unserious? Here's Zoya, and I do need to read more about the referendum. I'm not gonna lie, but according to Zoya, it was legal under international law with international observer. Yeah, it was very strictly and tightly regulated. And then the West didn't get the result they wanted. Then they flipped out and they said that Russia was intimidating people. I remember that. They're like, Russia is intimidating people. That's why, yeah. If it wasn't legal, then no territory can legally secede, which I'm sure imperialists believe. Thank you, Zoya, for that. I'll play one more I want to hear his reaction to this, and then I'll read super chats. Man, I really need to start doing 2-hour streams. Like, if I go live this many times, I need to stop these 2-hour streams, bro. It flies by. I'm having a great time. If you guys can tell, I'm having a great time doing Nick at Prime Time. Hope you guys enjoying it. It's fun. These streams really do fly by. I had like so much more content to share, but we'll be back next week. Let's continue, and then we'll begin to wrap up soon.
Kremlin has been pretty clear, Ambassador, about what it wants. It wants a guarantee that Ukraine won't join NATO and recognition of the territory that Russia illegally annexed. But is that what it's going to take to stop this war?
Well, you're absolutely right. There's zero evidence that Putin has changed any of his positions from the day that he invaded Ukraine.
Why would he? For one, that's not true. His positions in the beginning were soft. They only hardened once the West broke their red line. I believe the first time I remember Russia hardening their position is when Biden sent M1 Abrams tanks. There's a lot that happened, but I swear that was like one of the moments where Russia like, all right, y'all fucked now. But what my point I want to make, why should Russia concede anything? You guys are the one who fucked up and promoted Russia in this war, in this conflict, and they made it 100% clear that Ukraine is their red line and Ukraine should not join NATO. What part are these Russian demands is unreasonable? And I'm asking everyone in the chat, even anyone who disagree with me, are you guys really willing to go start World War III based on who have governing rights over Crimea? Nigga, you guys want to die because you want Ukrainian control of the Donbass? Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah, sorry, I let it continue. I have a hard time listening to Michael Maffal. I knew this was going to be a brutal segment.
Well, you're absolutely.
It's been a long time since I broke down liberal neocon propaganda. That's why I wanted to do this. And the meltdown from the liberal class over these conversations is something else. Let me continue.
That's what it's going to take to stop this war.
Well, you're absolutely right. There's zero evidence that Putin has changed any of his positions from the day that he invaded Ukraine. Maybe they did in the Witkoff meeting. Of course, we don't have a readout of that. But I listened very closely to Putin's foreign policy advisor, Yuri Ushakov. I used to deal with him when I was ambassador. And the way he framed it is that Witkoff came with concessions. He said, we got positive signals from Trump. He didn't mention anything that Putin sent back. And you're absolutely right to underscore the conditions that he wants for the end of the war is complete annexation of those 4 territories that he invaded in 2022. And I want to remind everybody that the Russian army does not control all of that territory yet. He's actually called for Ukraine to withdraw from their own country as a term, as a condition for a peace deal. So maybe he's come off of that position, but publicly we have no evidence yet that he's changed his view on that.
Can we talk about Russia's financial situation? They are clearly under growing financial pressure. The Russia Central Bank projects the country will have 0 economic growth by the end of this year. Back in October, I think the interest rate was at its highest level since 1991. And then in an effort to tame inflation caused in part by the surge in military spending, we see that. Tomorrow, the U.S. is supposed to apply, or said they would apply, a new set of sanctions, although it's not entirely clear, I don't think, if that's happening. Does any of that impact the equation that's going on with Vladimir Putin, you who have dealt with him and has an idea about what financial...
You guys realize that despite all the sanctions, that Russia's GDP growth is outdoing the United States, right? Anyway, I'll just let it continue. I'll play one more clip.
Financial pressure.
There's so much to say on it.
I do think it has an impact, and I wish we would have a much more comprehensive, smart sanctions regime to increase the pressure. I actually do not think our best move is to put tariffs on Indian goods, which then requires those companies to put pressure on Modi, and then Modi puts pressure on Trump, on Putin. I just think there's so much easier ways to do it. And let me tell you, too, let's sanction the entire shadow fleet that the Russian government uses to export its oil right now. That's a much more strategic and direct hit on the Russians. And let's seize the Russian central bank assets that are sitting here in the United States. You want to get Putin's attention. Those are two very direct things that Trump could do instead. But having said that, I want to underscore, you're right. The economy is under pressure. Banks are overextended. They're even talking about reducing military spending in the next budget. And Russia is. Think about that. Reducing military spending during a time of war suggests that you have real economic problems at home.
Or it suggests that they whooping your ass. But you gotta see how insane this guy is. He advocated seizing Russian assets from the central bank, something that even the Biden administration they floated the idea, but they didn't pull the trigger because that would be one of the most suicidal things to do to the United States dollar. Like, despite all these sanctions, they did a lot of stuff to hurt the U.S. dollar. But you guys realize that if they seize Russian assets, then faith in the United States dollar and the faith in the United States financial systems internationally would plummet. Because that means you have countries that be like, you have investors from other countries that will be like, what's stopping the United States from seizing our assets if we don't support Israel enough? What if our country make a foreign policy decision that the United States doesn't agree with? Will my money be seized? So this concept is exactly why what Michael McFaul is advocating for here will destroy the United States economy. The United States dollar is already weak. It's already falling. It's the weakest point it's been since the 70s. And you would take it even more historic levels if you did something that crazy. And I know you guys don't listen to this guy as much as I do. I find this guy hilarious because the West actually listens to him. Like, whatever he says, Ursula von der Leyen follows. He was a U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. This guy got a lot of clout. The Biden administration was following this guy's direction to a T. So I'm not doing this segment for no reason. He is the voice of the neocon class on this issue. He's the guy you see on CNN talking about this, MSNBC. He writes op-ed for Washington Post. He is the voice of the establishment on this issue. If you was to ask him how you end this conflict with Russia and Ukraine, what's the end goal? His answer is that we need European countries to get involved. We need boots on the ground, and we need to fight to the last Ukrainian, and we need to fight Russia because that's how important this issue to him. According to him, we should have World War III. And this is the position of Ursula von der Leyen. World War III, so we can have Western dominance over Ukraine. People have no idea how psychotic the people in our ruling class is. Yeah, this guy has a lot of clout, man. I know he's like, these people who sound like clowns to us guys are extremely influential among Washington, D.C. He was Zoya, am I right? The Ukrainian ambassador. I remember. I think I tried to show you guys all this stuff, but he used to go on MSNBC. He explained how he had meetings with the Biden administration. He explained how he met with Anthony Blinken, and he was talking. He like, man, I had a chat with Blinken once, and I was explaining how we got to ramp up the sanctions, man. The dumbest people and the people ambassador to Russia. Oh my God. I thought he was ambassador to Ukraine. We had this absolute psychopath who calls him Putin. This psychopath was the ambassador to Russia. Jesus Christ. I don't know why I was thinking it was Ukraine, but Russia's crazy. So this will be the last thing I'll share. Here's Trump update on the Ukraine peace talks, explaining how they'll be swapping of territories. We will see. I feel like Trump is going to tank this peace deal like he tanked every single one. But this is the last update right before I went live. So we see how this goes on the weekend. I'll have an update on Monday. But Trump has worked against peace every step of the way. Whether people don't know it or not, but we see the fact that Trump is even considering swapping territory is good. But we see.
Looking at a territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. And but we'll be talking about that either later or tomorrow or whatever. Yeah, please.
This is a man who's been completely defeated and humiliated on the world stage by Vladimir Putin. Completely outclassed every fucking step of the way. So this is the announcement that's trending everywhere. But to me, I don't think this is new. Like, am I wrong here? But I see everyone talking about this headline. They said, breaking. Putin tells the United States he will stop the war in Ukraine in exchange for Eastern Ukraine. Like, this is the big trending story. But as far as I know, this is not really new. Like, and there's not a lot of details about this. Like, what do you mean by Eastern Ukraine? Oh shit! Let me actually find an article. Putin, Eastern Ukraine. I'm gonna see if I find an article on this. Twitter or not. I actually want to get an article. Here's the Wall Street Journal. Putin tells, or if I was going to be Michael McFall, Putin tells U.S. he'll halt war in exchange for Eastern Ukraine. What does that mean? Donbass? So, because as far as I know, this did not change in this position. So we don't know the exact details yet, but we definitely will be keeping our eyes on this. Russian President Vladimir Putin presented the Trump administration this week with a sweeping proposal for a ceasefire in Ukraine, demanding major territorial concessions by Kyiv in a push for global recognition of its claims in exchange for a halt in fighting. So that, to me, that sounds like the same. Like, this is the big story everyone is reporting on, but it's like, what are you guys talking about? Am I missing something? To me, this is not even a breaking news story. But anyway, I think we can begin to wrap up here. Let me read some super chats. Make sure you guys like and share, subscribe. I mean, this is our third week in a row. The streak continues. I'll tell you guys, I'm going to keep the streak going as long as possible. Like, I'm thinking until holidays, I'm going to try. What, that 10, 12 weeks? Unless something comes up, like a medical emergency, my computer melts down, my internet gets cut off. Unless something like that happens, something that I can't help, I'm going to keep the streak going. So our numbers are going up. Like, we are gaining traction. We are still less than a month old with this new show with Nick at Primetime. So if you're enjoying the show, make sure you tune in regularly to help us continue to grow as a channel, which we have ever since I started this new channel. There's been a significant uptick in traffic on RBN. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying the show. There's much more to come. Like, this week was more rant session. I have another show with Shama Sawant coming up here very soon with our new series. So our episode 2 should be coming out. I'm gonna try to book it for Friday, but we're gonna nail down exact time soon. Sarah from DDG will be back. A lot of great guests. Nico House will be back. So there's still a lot of great shows on Nick and Primetime coming up. So I hope you guys enjoying this. As you guys see, I've been having a lot of fun doing this show because my mindset was, I was like, all right, the YouTube algorithm is already fucking with me. The YouTube algorithm is not going to help us. So, like, I was like, I'm going to do a new show where I just come on and I'll just fucking rant like a motherfucker. Talk about whatever story's been on mine. I've been having fun doing it. So, I'm going to keep it going as long as I can. Hopefully, we can continue to get and grow our support for this new show on the channel. Let me read some super chats. I'll put Hotspot in the background. We've been killing the game at Hotspot. This is the Hotspot video I just released today. Yeah, my Hotspot videos on X, they get around 10,000 views per video. It's very nice, man. It's dope. Anyway, let's read some super chats. I appreciate the solidarity, Patrick. Much appreciated. I appreciate you as well, Meredith. Thank you, Nick, for speaking the truth. Appreciate the super chats. Definitely make the labor of doing this worth it because I actually do a lot of prep. I annoy myself because I prep way more for the show than I actually need to. They'll probably pissed, bro. I'll be like 2 hours in the show. People are like, Nick, how do you do 2 hour streams? I'm like, nigga, how do I do 1 hour? Because most of the times I do 2 hour streams, I only cover like half of the shit I prepare. Like I actually put a lot of work in preparing these streams, reading and researching. Most of the time, I don't even scratch the surface. So that whenever you guys support us on Patreon, Super Chat, it makes it much more worthwhile because you guys are supporting the massive labor it takes to produce this show. Because I don't have a producer, I don't have a writer. I write every single segment. I produce every single segment. I control the background as I'm speaking. I monitor Super Chat. You guys have no idea how fucking hard this shit is to do. But I've been doing it for a while, so hey, man. It's a lot of labor. That's why I appreciate whenever you guys support the channel, essentially. That's the homie. I gotta hit them up later. Hold on. Actually, I'll just call him out. We about to wrap up soon. Thank you for the super sticker, Eric. So I got my brothers calling me. Like, what the fuck? They like, nigga, what you doing? Thanks for $5, Mark. Nick, Hamas was having a big press thing in the beginning. Every time they released a hostage, all smiles and everything. Pissed Netanyahu off. If you guys want to know how fascist and insane Israel is, they had a rule that they was enforcing on Palestinians, and they was shooting. I think there was a Palestinian that was murdered because whenever there was Palestinian hostages that was released, they made a rule where Palestinians was not allowed to celebrate because they didn't want international propaganda against them. They didn't want the world to see Palestinians cheering the release of Palestinian prisoners. So the condition that they laid on Palestinians was, we will only release hostages, but you guys can't celebrate. And they enforce it harshly, just to show you guys how psychotic these motherfuckers are. Oh yeah, you guys have no idea, bro. You guys think I can rant for 2 hours about history, current events? You guys think I can do this just on top? No, it takes a lot of research, guys. It's just not easy. But I enjoy it though. Hotspot helps because doing Hotspot it takes me a few hours to do that, but it takes a lot of research. I've grown a lot as a communicator and as a journalist ever since doing Hotspot because it's so much work. So if you guys think it's easy to do this shit, then there's a reason why a lot of people not doing it, man. So that's the point I'm making, not to brag. It's just I appreciate people who are willing to pay me for my labor. That's all. It is a lot of work, especially since I'm doing it 3 times a week, 2 hours. This is literally the second 2 hour stream of the week. And then my stream on Monday was 90 minutes. So either way, the most important thing is I have a fun time doing this. I have a fun time doing this, so I'm not complaining. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for $5 for Tuzo. Nick, the only issue I have with the poll you set up is that I don't have a hell no as a choice. Zoe, what's the poll result? I can't see it. I tell you, when I produce, I can't fucking see the polls. He reminded me. Zoya, she always yells at me because I forget the poll. Thank God that super chat reminded me. Definitely would have forgot again. I had to pull up you. I'm gonna read it. Should universities pay Zionists for feeling uncomfortable? So luckily, 94% of you guys said no. 4% say yes. I understand why you guys would have held no on that one. But anyway, I'm a. Did I miss a super chat? Oh yeah, this one. What? They hate Fuentes for exposing the full supremacy. Appreciate the super chat. You guys know I'm not a big fan of Fuentes, but I appreciate you guys for watching. This is another solid week of Nick at Prime Time. I found some videos. If you guys like Nick, bro, I found some fucking videos where he's like, man, I'm an elitist. Like he is such a fucking grit. That's a story for another day, though. I found some devastating op on that guy. Like he is so just like Tucker. He's so fucking fake. There was a video of him just like 3 years ago where he's like, I'm an elitist. We should. I don't respect people who work with hands. Actually, what the fuck is it? Since you guys. I had it saved because I was thinking about doing the segment, but it was not that big of a deal. Like, but I'm gonna show you guys this real quick. Yeah, it is a lot of work, guys. For sure it is. Nick, I'm an elitist Fuentes attacked a carpenter for working with his hands. What is this the one we elitist?
You're gonna go bang on nails and you're laughing at my life.
I mean, I'm getting an education. I'm doing shit.
What are you getting in it? Where are you getting an
I mean,
to go to community college?
Okay.
Oh no. Because it goes to a community college. What are you studying?
I have one more question. So,
Okay.
you're shitting on the nail bangers, the fucking blue collar, right?
Yeah, right.
So you're trying to appeal to these people. What are you gonna say?
I'm
What if
trying to
somebody flips
appeal.
this?
I'm trying to appeal to rich people, actually.
What?
I thought you were trying to appeal to the
fellow
masses.
rich people.
He said, I'm trying to appeal to my fellow rich people.
Rich people. I'm an elitist.
He said, I'm trying to appeal to rich people, and I'm an elitist. This is what he was saying before he rebranded, guys. You guys see how all these motherfuckers are fake? And I got more. I want to actually save this segment because Nick Fuentes, just like Tucker Carlson, they go through fucking... just like Candace Owens, they are grifters. They don't really believe what they're saying, bro. There's actually another video. I actually kind of want to say this because I want to put like a comprehensive segment together because there's so many things this motherfucker said. Oh, here it is. Oh, I'm sorry. It's only 50 seconds. I'm sorry. I have to show you guys this one. For all the people like Nick Fuentes, dude, this is 2024. This motherfucker changed his character on a dime, and people forgot who he was. Like, this is Nick Fuentes.
I think on Twitter, in our Twitter community, they said, Nick Fuentes never gets his hands dirty. That's my problem with him. Isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal? Your hands look like that so that my hands can look like this. So that my hands can look like this. Okay? No, but seriously, we have to get rid of all these communists in our movement. Enough. I've had enough of all of these communists that hate the rich and care about the price of healthcare and celebrate poor people. They get mad when you say you hate poor people. Why are you getting offended? You're not poor, are you?
Who mad?
And if you are, why don't you hate yourself?
Who mad? He said you should hate yourself. This is the guy that people are rebranding as a fighter for the white working class. And I didn't even cover that phony ass, fake ass beef he had with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. This shit is political theater and it's clown shit. He's fake as fuck. This was just 2 years ago. And now he's rebranded himself as a friend of the white working class. Don't fall for these fucking grifters, man. There's only one group of people who are serious in politics, and that is the anti-imperialist left, the anti-capitalist left. People like him who supported the Republican Party, who were friends with Zionists like Laura Loomer. Stop trusting these motherfuckers who organize based on race and not on class. But anyway, I didn't plan on doing this segment. We're 2 hours in. Let's wrap up. I got to be a short 5-minute segment. 5-minute segment, Zoya. Let's do that. I think we can make this a quick 5-minute segment on Fuentes because people always ask me my opinion on him. I destroyed him with Sarah with DDG. Like, he is deeply unserious. I went after Nick Fuentes. I was destroying him. He's like he avoided me. I don't even bother no more because all these people I can easily destroy. Just like that Dave comedian guy, all these Ian Carroll, all these people who support Trump, all these right-wing populists, they avoid me like a plague because I see through them and their incoherent, dishonest ideology. Nick Fuentes claims he hates Zionists and he hates Jewish people, but he wants white Zionism in America. He mostly just jealous of the Jewish community because he organizes based on race, which is that if you study history, you will learn that historically, people organizing based on race is a failure. That is how the ruling class manipulates you. That is what humanity has done for 99% of humanity we organize based on race, not based on class. Organizing based on class is a new concept which delivered revolutionary wins for the working class. So be very cautious of these people like Fuentes and these people who pretend they're populists, but advocate organizing based on race, but not based on class and based on the working class. Another thing about Fuentes, people praise him because he bats Israel. He says he likes Israel. He says he don't want to get rid of Israel. There's another guy. Actually, I need to shut the fuck up because I can do so many. I can destroy this motherfucker based on things he said. He condemned the resistance. He claims to hate Israel, but he supports the existence of Israel. He just don't want the United States to fund it. So anyway, I ended here because we had we almost 2 hours in. So I think I got through all the super chats. I'll be back next week. I ended here. I just got to shut the fuck up. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Have a great weekend, my friends. Take care.